Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something that trips up so many writers, especially if you're trying to tell stories of faith. I'm talking about conflict. We all know it's the engine of every great story, right? So, why do so many of us seem to run away from it?
I mean, you know that feeling, right? You settle in to watch a movie, maybe read a script, and you just feel nothing. It's just flat. The characters are talking, stuff is technically happening, but there's no juice, no momentum. It just feels limp. And this happens a lot, especially in stories that are supposed to be inspiring. But here's the thing. It's not because there isn't enough action. No, it comes from something deeper, a basic misunderstanding of what actually makes a story move.
And that brings us to this absolutely brilliant diagnosis from screenwriter George D. Escobar. He says that if your characters are just walking and talking like some kind of Sorkin knockoff on Ambien, well, the problem probably isn't a lack of conflict. It's a lack of stakes. And that's the real killer. Because when nothing is actually on the line, when your characters have nothing real to lose, all that tension just evaporates. And your audience, they're gone.
Okay, so if we know a lack of stakes is the problem, why is it so common? Why do so many of us write that way? Well, it often boils down to a fundamental misunderstanding, a real conflict over conflict, especially inside the faith community.
You know, there's this feeling out there that because we as people of faith value peace and harmony, that putting a lot of conflict in our stories is, I don't know, kind of unchristian, that it goes against what we believe. But that is a huge mistake. Think about it. Harmony and resolution, that's the destination. It's not the whole road trip.
And honestly, to see why that's such a myth, you don't have to look any further than the Bible itself. I mean, it is jam-packed with conflict. You've got Cain and Abel right at the start, Jacob and Esau, Saul and David. Heck, even in the New Testament, you see Peter and Paul butting heads. And Jesus, he was in conflict with, well, pretty much everyone in power. In the Bible, conflict isn't some sin you're supposed to avoid. It's the proving ground of conviction. It's where real character gets built.
So just how big of a problem is this, really? Get this. If you made a rule that every single scene in a movie had to have something real at stake for a character, you would have to cut nearly half, 40%, of all faith-based films. 40%. That's staggering. It just shows you how deep this lack of stakes issue really runs.
All right, so how do we fix this? We have to get a little more specific. It's not enough to just say, add more conflict. No, you have to understand the absolutely critical difference between conflict and its best friend, tension.
Okay, so first, let's get our terms straight. Conflict is pretty straightforward. It's the what of the story. Your character wants something desperately, and something or someone is standing in their way. Simple as that. It's the clash. It's the engine that makes the whole plot go.
But here's where it gets interesting. Conflict by itself, not enough. You need tension. Tension is the feeling. It's what the audience experiences because of that conflict. It's that lean forward in your seat feeling. It's the worry, the hope, the oh my gosh, what happens next? It's the electricity in the room.
And that brings us to the main event. This is the phrase you need to write on a sticky note and put on your monitor. Conflict is king. It rules the structure of your story. But tension? Tension is what pays the rent. It's what keeps the whole operation going. It's what keeps your audience invested. Because without tension, your kingdom has no people in it.
Okay, so if conflict is king and tension pays the rent, how do you actually do it? How do you make sure you've got both? Well, it all comes down to breaking down the anatomy of every single scene you write.
It's actually a pretty simple formula. You just have to ask 3 questions for every single scene. Number 1, what does my character want? And be specific, not just to be happy. No, it's, I want to earn my father's respect before he passes away. Number 2, what's in their way? This could be another person, their own worst habit, or a literal ticking clock. And number 3, this is the magic question. Why can't they just walk away? That last one, that's the lock. That's what creates the tension vortex and traps them and the audience in the scene.
Now, if you want to take your story from good to truly great, you've got to go deeper than just physical obstacles. The real secret sauce, the thing that makes a story unforgettable, it's moral conflict. This is where your story doesn't just get interesting, it goes nuclear.
Moral conflict is all about putting your character in an impossible situation. A choice between two things that are both good, or even more gut-wrenching, a choice between two things that are both bad. Like, do I lie to protect my family, or do I forgive the person who destroyed my life? Or imagine a pastor having to decide, do I confess my own crisis of faith to my congregation? There's no easy out, there's no clean choice, and that is exactly why we can't look away.
All right, let's get super practical now. Think of this next part as your personal tension toolkit. I'm going to give you 5 specific tools you can pull out and use in your writing, like right now, to pump up the tension.
And these aren't just, vague ideas. These are pro-level tools. First up, asymmetrical knowledge. That's the classic Hitchcock bomb-under-the-table trick. The audience knows it's there, but the characters don't. Instant tension. Next, power reversals. In the middle of a scene, just flip who has the upper hand. Keeps everyone on their toes. Then, withhold resolution. Don't solve the problem in one go. In fact, make it worse. We've already hit on moral dilemmas, forcing those impossible choices. And finally, rising stakes. This is huge. The cost of failure has to get bigger and bigger and bigger as you go.
So why does all this matter? Especially for a storyteller of faith. Because all this stuff, the conflict, the tension, the stakes, it isn't just about making a more exciting story. For us, it unlocks a unique and incredibly powerful purpose. It gives us access to a kind of story ending that nothing else can.
And here's the fundamental difference. See, most secular stories, they're aiming for something called catharsis. It's that big emotional release at the end, where the problem is solved and the cost of it all is kind of wiped away. But for stories of faith, we have a superpower, and that superpower is redemption. See, redemption isn't about removing the cost. It's about a character who chooses to pay the cost, and through that payment finds true, deep transformation.
So what does a character like that even look like on the page? Well, it's not about being a perfect hero, not at all. It's about a protagonist who starts out weak or flawed or just wrong about something. They face real injustice, but they don't lose who they are. They make a true sacrifice. They give up something they can never, ever get back. And somehow, through that profound loss, they bring life and hope to everyone else. Does that arc sound familiar? It should. It's the echo of the gospel playing out in our stories.
And that really brings us to the heart of it all, the final, most powerful truth. If you want to write a story that lasts, a story that truly matters, the goal isn't perfection. It's not about being slick or polished. It's about courage. It's about being willing to embrace real, costly, painful conflict. It's about putting your characters through the fire, not protecting them from it. Because what separates a forgettable story from a truly holy one isn't its polish. It's the cross that it dares to carry.